Good afternoon, everyone. Donald Trump has made clear that he and the Republican Party don't give a damn about the personal finances of the American people. It's an extraordinary admission. But the reality of the Trump presidency and Republican control of the House and the Senate has regularly made that very point. Because under the presidency of Donald Trump and Republican control in Congress, the economy is a disaster. Costs haven't gone down, costs have gone up, and it's a direct result of Republican policies. The Trump tariffs have increased costs on everyday Americans by thousands of dollars per year. At the same period of time, Donald Trump's reckless and costly war of choice, where billions of taxpayer dollars are being wasted, has resulted in life becoming more expensive for the American people, particularly as it relates to the dramatic increase in gas prices. In the Trump Republican economy, inflation is at a 3 or 4 year high. The cost of groceries is out of control, gas is out of control, goods are out of control, housing prices are out of control, and the Republican assault on the health care of the American people has ripped away the ability of millions of everyday Americans to be able to go see a doctor when they need one. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to love and cherish Medicaid. They turned around and enacted their one big ugly bill, which is the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And as a result, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers closing all across the country, particularly in rural America. The economy is a disaster, and we know why. It's because Donald Trump and Republicans don't give a damn about the personal finances of the American people. Donald Trump said it, and he meant it. Questions?
Good afternoon, thank you. Republicans are ahead of Democrats in terms of fundraising for this cycle, but you spent $60 million in Virginia here. Do you think that that was $60 million well spent? Is that going to impede your efforts to spend money in key races this fall?
Yeah, the House Majority PAC actually outraised for the first time the Congressional Leadership Fund, as you may know, in the last quarter. For the first time ever, the House Majority PAC outraised the Congressional Leadership Fund, the crooks, the liars, and the frauds. That's what it stands for. Because at the end of the day, here's what we do know. Republicans have concluded that they need to cheat to win. That's what they're celebrating? Is that what you're elevating right now? The notion that 4 unelected judges would overturn the votes of more than 3 million citizens in Virginia? Is this what Republicans are celebrating right now? Because the people in Virginia right now are outraged, they're angry, and they're determined to send a message in November, regardless of what ultimately happens before the Supreme Court of the United States of America, where that reckless decision by the Virginia Supreme Court is now on appeal. But what's been made clear, our resolve is more robust now than it ever was. Because it's clear Republicans can't defend their policies. They can't defend their failure on the economy. They can't defend this reckless and costly war of choice. They can't defend the fact that they've ripped health care away from millions of Americans. They can't defend the fact that they're stealing food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans. And so we're not going to unilaterally disarm. Not now, not ever. And this redistricting war is just getting started.
But that's $60 million off the field here. I mean, you can't put that genie back in the bottle.
We spent $60 million. They spent over $40 million. The people of Virginia were very clear. Money's not going to be a problem for us. And enthusiasm is not going to be a problem for us. But what's going to be a problem for the other side of the aisle? I don't know what you're asking, but because the reality is we're going to continue full steam ahead, period, full stop. That's just the reality of the situation. And Republicans have the narrowest majority of any party since 1930. They are not going to be able to rig the midterm elections, period, full stop.
Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Just to piggyback on that, though, can you confirm that you were part of a call recently with Virginia Democrats, and can you explain the nature of that call and whether or not you specifically discussed a proposal that would involve replacing the state Supreme Court as a means to trying to redraw the map in Virginia?
The conversation that I had with members of the Virginia congressional delegation will remain a private conversation with members of the Virginia congressional delegation. But the consensus on the call was we're going to win 2 or 3 seats, regardless of whether the current Virginia Supreme Court decision holds, which was a disgusting decision to invalidate the votes and the voices of more than 3 million people in Virginia. How desperate are these MAGA extremists? Because they know they're going down in flames electorally in November. They know it. And that's why they're behaving in such a desperate fashion. So we are going to proceed. We'll see what happens with the Supreme Court appeal that was filed by the Virginia Attorney General. It's not as if we have great faith in the fairness of the United States Supreme Court, but we'll let the process play itself out. We're operating under the assumption that the map is what the map is right now in advance of 2026. It may change in advance of 2028, but we're winning Virginia 1, and we're winning Virginia 2, and we have a shot to flip those other 2 seats under this current map. And that's what we're resolved to do.
But Mr. Leader, I mean, you ultimately lost this, and you take personal
Who
responsibility.
lost?
You lost in the
Who lost?
Supreme Court.
Did the voters lose?
Well, Democrats did. Your loss
Did the
was
voters
passed.
lose?
You take personal responsibility for investing so much time and resources, tens of millions of dollars, in ultimately fruitless effort.
We did the right thing, and this effort is not over. It's just getting started. And by the way, come back to me on November 4th when Democrats have taken back control of the House of Representatives. That's ultimately going to be, what matters. What do the American people, we are going to win the House of Representatives. I'm telling you that right now. I've been telling you that from the very beginning. And by the way, what math are people focused on when they think about the electoral environment that we're in? When Democrats took the House back in 2018, and at minimum we're in the 2018 environment. When Democrats took the House back, we had to flip 24 seats in 2018. 24 seats, which people said was impossible to do. We didn't just flip 24 seats in 2018, we flipped 40. And of those 40 seats, 31 were in districts that Donald Trump had just won. In this particular instance, we started out this Congress needing to flip 3. When it's all said and done, Republicans at best will add a handful of gerrymandered seats to that total, when it's all said and done. So I think what that means is that we just have to flip a fraction of the seats that we flipped in 2018. A fraction of the seats that we flipped in 2018, and we're in the majority. And so we're going to proceed full steam ahead everywhere in terms of pushing back against MAGA extremism. And we understand that Republicans, desperate as they are, because they've been a complete and total failure, are going to proceed with diabolical intensity to try to steal the election. Instead of changing direction, they want to change districts. But they can't get anywhere close to 24. They can't even get close to double digits when it's all said and done. And so Susan Del Bene said earlier today, we're going to win back control of the House. And the big fight will be what happens in between 2026 and 2028. Because we know this unprecedented assault on black political representation, the likes of which we have not seen since the Jim Crow era, the ghosts of the Confederacy has afflicted the United States Supreme Court majority and is invading and haunting the nation right now, and we take that seriously. And we know it's going to continue, which is why Democrats are committed to launching a decisive and overwhelming response in advance of the 2028 election to ensure that it's the American people who are the ones who get to decide who's in the majority in the House, who's in the majority in the Senate, and ultimately in 2028, who gets elected as the next president of the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Just two questions if I could. First, your math really has gotten more difficult. Do you see it as just a harder path now to the majority? And second,
What's the math as you see it?
Excuse me?
No, what's the math as you see it so that we understand the same?
Well, it just looks like you're
Basis.
picking up more seats through redistricting, which
But I'm saying, what's the math? Because we started at 3. Where do you think it's at right now?
I don't know. You said yourself, not quite double digit. I think that's what people are looking at. A pickup of, net 5 or something, 7, maybe 9.
Yeah, so let's give them a net of 3, for instance, because we're going to win 5 seats in California. They'll be fortunate if they win 3 in Texas. They're not defeating Vicente Gonzalez, and they're not defeating Henry Cuellar. In fact, they aren't even contesting the Cuellar seat right now. And we know that it's the Cuellar seat and the Gonzalez seat that are counted amongst the 5. They're not getting 5 out of Texas. They'll be fortunate if they get 3. And because we're going to defeat the current incumbent in Texas 15, right next to Representative Cuellar and Gonzalez, they may only get 2 out of Texas. We're getting 5 out of California. They start down 3. So I ask you, what's the math that you're talking about? Right? When they start down 3. And we're going to win at least 2 seats in Virginia, as I talked about, under this map, if it holds. Don Davis is going to get reelected in North Carolina. We pushed him back substantially in Ohio. And so we're full steam ahead. And maybe we have to flip 5 seats. Maybe we have to flip 6 seats. We'll see where it all lands once all the litigation is over. Do we think we're going to flip more than 6 seats when we've identified 45 that are in play? The answer is unequivocally yes. Of course we are.
And then to follow up, are you essentially saying that the redistricting war now shifts to 2028, or are you still eyeing potential redistricting fights in some of the outstanding states?
We have ongoing litigation right now in 3 different states, in Virginia, in Florida, which is a blatantly unconstitutional map. And by the way, even by the Republicans' own math, there's no circumstance they're netting 4 seats out of Florida. They know it and we know it. But that map shouldn't even go forward, and we'll see what the Florida Supreme Court does. And we still have ongoing litigation in Wisconsin. Those are the 3 states right now that are unresolved. And then, of course, led by the Congressional Black Caucus and our nation's civil rights groups, we're tracking what's happening in the Deep South, which is an all-out assault on black political representation. It's disgusting. And Republicans are doing it openly, in plain sight, targeting African-American communities. This is who they are. They're not even pretending to try to solve problems on behalf of the American people, because we know they're actively hurting the American people. So what I am saying is, we're winning control of the House of Representatives. That's the reality of the situation. With Donald Trump on the ballot, we won 215 seats. What do you think is going to happen with him not on the ballot and having been a complete and total failure? So the challenge that is in front of us is ensuring that there is a decisive and overwhelming response in advance of 2028. Because the Republican efforts to gerrymander the national congressional map is not going to end, because this is all they know how to do. It's the only reason they're in the majority right now, as a matter of fact, because of what happened in North Carolina. And so, I've been very publicly clear about the fact that in advance of 2028, where we will have additional states that will come online, including but not limited to New York, New Jersey, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, and Maryland. That's at least 7 states where we will be able to unleash a decisive and forceful response to what they are doing in the Deep South. And I'm telling you right now, we will. As several of those governors have already publicly indicated, and as the Senate President in New Jersey just said earlier today.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Given everything that's happened with the redistricting wars and with Speaker Johnson this term and the president's attacks on you and Jen Kiggins, the controversy around that, if you all win the majority back the way that you have told us repeatedly will occur in November, what does that look like from like a governing perspective? How are you going to go about trying to build coalitions and get things done? Are you going to you criticize Republicans for your words of my way, or how the highway approach, is that an approach that you think will work with the Democratic majority, or will you try to build bridges, build coalitions? Will that be possible given all of the acrimony that's occurred during this Congress between your side and the Republicans?
Yeah, our commitment is to work on the issues that matter for the American people, beginning with driving down the high cost of living. Life is too expensive. Democrats actually give a damn about the personal expenses of the American people. And clearly, Republicans could care less about the financial circumstances of the American people, as Donald Trump just said. And so we're going to relentlessly focus on making life better for everyday Americans, driving down the high cost of living, and of course, fixing our broken healthcare system so that everyday Americans can actually afford to go see a doctor when they need one. We need to take down the price of gas and groceries and goods, and we will launch an all-out frontal assault on this broken economy, because Donald Trump and Republican policies have been a complete and total failure. At the same period of time, what is clear, based on the fact that Republicans have so clearly chosen a strategy of needing to cheat to win, and that can't be normalized. We're not going to let it be normalized. That's nothing to celebrate. That they may get themselves a handful of additional seats to take them from a 3-seat majority to a 6-seat majority. That's nothing to celebrate, and it's not going to immunize them from their failures. That should be clear. Certainly not in an environment where in 2018 we flipped 40 seats. But what is clear to me is that in addition to focusing on the economy, focusing on making life better for the American people, and focusing on driving down the high cost of living, we need massive electoral reform, massive campaign finance reform, and massive judicial reform. And that will also be an important part of what we'll need to do as Democrats in the majority on behalf of the American people in the next Congress.
So those are pursuits that you think Democrats will pursue alone, or do you think that you can work together with the other side on that? Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to drill down on.
These are pursuits that need to be undertaken on behalf of the American people, and if there are a handful of Republicans who want to join us and do the right thing for the people that we represent collectively throughout this country, then we'll welcome that bipartisan support. We've been able to push issue after issue after issue in this Congress, in the minority, governing as if we're in the majority. We just hit 218 on another discharge petition. That makes 6 in this Congress on issues that vary from immigration to the economy to healthcare to foreign policy to pushing back against the ongoing cover-up by the Trump administration with respect to Jeffrey Epstein. We've repeatedly defeated Republicans legislatively while serving in the minority. What do you think we're going to be able to do when we're in the majority?
On Louisiana, Governor Landry said that up to thousands of ballots will be discarded. This morning, Speaker Johnson argued having a constitutional map outweighs those ballots that have already been distributed. What is your response to that, especially given that even though you disagree with the Supreme Court ruling, the Supreme Court did rule that the map was unconstitutional?
The Republicans have concluded that they need to cheat to win. They are in plain sight trying to rig the midterm elections because they're desperate to cling on to power because Republicans have been a complete and total failure. The reason why they're in complete and total panic mode is because they started this Congress with a narrow majority, only 3 seats up, narrowest majority of any party since the Great Depression in 1930. And the Republicans know exactly what happened during the first Trump midterm election. They lost 40 seats. These weren't Democratic-leaning seats. These weren't swing seats. 31 of those 40 seats were in districts that Donald Trump had just won. What do we think is going to happen in November with Donald Trump's economy a complete and total disaster and this failed, costly, reckless war of choice in the Middle East, on top of the ongoing corruption that Republicans aren't even trying to hide?
You mentioned the attack on black political representation. Can you reflect on this moment and what it means for the Congressional Black Caucus and the potential loss of institutional knowledge from some of the members who've been here a long time who are being redistricted out of their seats?
Yeah, by our count at this point, Republicans have already targeted 6 congressional districts represented by African Americans. Their behavior speaks for itself. They are engineering, as a result of an unprecedented Supreme Court decision, a return to Jim Crow-like segregation tactics in the Deep South. And if they could spread this cancer and poison across America, they would do that as well. We're not going to allow it, and we're going to forcefully push back against what's happening in the Deep South. The Congressional Black Caucus will continue to lead the effort moving forward. I'm proud to be a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, and we're going to stand with the black community in the South and across the country every step of the way. People are outraged at what has taken place. This is an assault on free and fair elections, an assault on racial progress in America, and an assault on black representation and the ability of African Americans to actually simply elect the candidate of their choice. We will beat the far-right extremists. We're going to win in November, and then we're going to crush their souls as it relates to the extremism that they're trying to unleash on the American people. Thank you.